Hello. For many years now, it has been a delight and a privilege to direct the choir of St Lawrence in their presentation of the annual Nativity. This year is no different, except that in this strangest of years, it is done entirely over Zoom. You will see that no expense has been spared for sets and properties, and it is performed entirely by the junior choir with backing vocals from the senior choir. So without further ado, let me introduce our main players. Okay, so here are all the people. First of all, we have our head chorister, Eleanor, who is the narrator. Give us a wave. Excellent. Playing the midwife in a very fetching nurse's cap is Maisie. Playing Steve the donkey in the most brilliant pair of ears is Bethany. And Leah is playing lots of parts. She's the king's narrator. She is Gabriel, because she's a little angel. And she's also playing Nigel the donkey. But he doesn't appear till right at the end. Then we have Alex. Give us a wave, Alex. Alex is a census taker, one of the kings, and one of the shepherds. Then we have Grace. Give us a wave, Grace. Grace is also a census taker and a shepherd, but also an angel. Then we have Rachel. Give us a wave, Rachel. She's a census taker, a shepherd, and an angel. Then we have Monty. Give us a wave, Monty. Excellent. He's the innkeeper, a king, a sheep, and Joseph. And we have Jemima, who plays the innkeeper's wife, and an angel. And we have Maddie, give us a wave, that's it, who plays a king and a sheep. And Lily, finally, who is a sheep and is also Mary. And we may have a guest appearance from Jesus as well. So, we're all ready. Go.
Once there was a very busy, important midwife. She was the best midwife from Nazareth to Bethlehem and had delivered all sorts of important babies and some who were not so important. But they all had one thing in common. They all needed her.
All babies need me.
One evening, she was busy knitting when suddenly...
Beep, beep.
Oh bother, where did I leave my mobile?
Here it is.
Donkeys were good at finding things, especially this donkey.
Thank you, Steve. Where would I be without you?
The midwife had a text message. She began to read it, and as she did, her excitement grew. There was a special baby due to be born in Bethlehem that very night, a king no less.
Saddle up, Steve. We have to hurry. We don't want to miss the birth of the king.
Where to, boss?
To Bethlehem Palace, quick at the double. There's a baby who needs me.
Steve the donkey stopped. He scratched his head. He didn't think there was a palace in Bethlehem. He'd certainly never heard of one.
Are you sure that's where we should be looking, boss?
Of course, kings are born in palaces. Everybody knows that. Where else would we be looking for a king?
Steve the donkey wasn't convinced.
But nobody ever listens to a donkey.
Quick as a flash, they hurried out into the night, and before they knew it, they had arrived in Bethlehem. But what a lot of people! The Emperor, Caesar Augustus, had ordered a census to be taken throughout the Roman Empire, and everyone had to travel to their own town to be registered.
What
The midwife and Steve were squeezed and squashed, hustled and bustled, shoved and squished. They couldn't see a palace anywhere.
Excuse me, sirs.
We are census takers.
We are very busy.
And very important.
We hope you're not going to waste our time.
You're not tourists, are you?
Are you here for the census?
The what? No. Please could you direct us to Bethlehem Palace?
A palace? Here?
I told you they were tourists.
We are far too important for this silly nonsense. We have vital work to do for Caesar.
The midwife and Steve continued to search for the palace, but everyone in Bethlehem was so busy that nobody would stop to help them. The midwife was getting worried. She didn't want to miss the birth of the king, and she knew he needed her there. Finally, they decided to knock on a door.
Let's try this one. It's an inn, so they're bound to be welcoming.
Steve wasn't so sure about that.
But nobody ever listens to a donkey.
No room at the inn. No room at the inn, I say. Don't worry, dear. I'll deal with this. No room at the inn. No room at the inn, I say.
They tried to explain that they didn't need a room. They needed directions. But the innkeeper and his wife weren't listening.
We've told you we're fully booked. You'll have to try somewhere else. Good day.
Well, how rude. Any more of this and I might have one of my funny turns.
Uh-oh, not another midwife crisis.
The midwife was getting really worried. She had never missed an important birth before, but what were they to do? Then Steve had a brilliant idea.
I've got a brilliant idea. Maybe we should try to find someone who looks like they could live in a palace. We could...
Steve, I'm thinking.
Nobody ever listens to a donkey.
That's it. I've got a brilliant idea. Let's try to find someone who looks like they would live in a palace.
Brilliant idea.
But where to start looking? They looked high, they looked low, they looked sideways, they looked long ways, and then, just when they were about to give up...
Ooh, I wonder if they know where to find a palace.
I think they might be of use to us, and there are 3 of them.
That's the thing about kings. You wait all day for one and then 3 come along at once.
Excuse me, Your Excellencies. Could you help us, please?
The midwife explained her situation and asked if they knew of Bethlehem Palace, but they were from faraway lands and didn't know the area.
Wonderful! You have a narrator. Fantastic to meet you. We have our own narrator too,
said the king. Said the very good-looking king, who was charming and handsome as the other 2 kings. The kings had come to Bethlehem for the birth of an amazing baby, one who is to be the saviour of the world.
Wow, we're looking for a baby too.
Shh, Steve, don't interrupt.
The 3 kings had been guided to Bethlehem by a star from the east.
the brightest star in the sky. Very easy to follow. But we've had a spot of bother since we reached Bethlehem.
Is it left? Is it right? We will stay.
midwife suddenly had another brilliant idea.
Do you have a sat-nav we could borrow, please?
Steve stopped and scratched his head. Surely they should keep following the star.
It will tell us where the palace is, Steve.
Steve wasn't so sure.
But nobody ever listens to a donkey.
What a great idea, midwife. Absolutely fantastic. I hadn't thought of using the royal sat-nav.
What a surprise, said the camels.
But when they tried to use it,
Oh no. What's the problem? It says there should be a roundabout right here, and clearly there isn't. Sat-nav's not working again. But it's in the neighbourhood plan.
Look, everybody.
Steve could clearly see a star in the sky, and it was moving. He wondered how anyone could have missed it. It was the largest, brightest, most beautiful sight he had ever seen.
Shining as brightly as I can, as bright can be. I'm shining as brightly as I can, so the three wise men can follow me to the stable, to see Jesus the newborn King. I'm twinkling as brightly as I can, as bright can be. I'm twinkling as brightly as I can, so the three wise men can follow me to the stable, to see Jesus the newborn King. To the stable, so that they can worship Him. To the stable, to see Jesus the newborn King. To the stable, so that they can worship Him.
There's the star again. Fantastic. Who needs a map?
The camels grumbled.
Goodbye and good luck with your search for Bethlehem Palace.
Wow, wise men can be quite...
exhausting.
Let's follow them, boss.
It seemed obvious to Steve that they should follow the star too, but the midwife had other ideas.
I don't have time to follow a star. I'm in a hurry.
She decided they should head up into the hills. From there, they would have a clear view of the whole of Bethlehem, including Bethlehem Palace.
But
Hurry, there's a baby who needs me.
Up into the hills above Bethlehem they went, and when they finally got to the top, the view was spectacular. They could see for miles and miles, but there was no palace.
Coming through.
Stand aside.
Make way.
Excuse me?
Let's rock this.
Music, maestro.
And a 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4.
I said, excuse me.
Well, why didn't you say so?
May I speak to someone in charge?
I'm the supervisor. I'm the deputy supervisor.
And is the sheep.
Please, where is Bethlehem Palace?
Never heard of it.
Catastrophe.
He's just having a little crisis.
Ah.
Well, now the midwife was at her wit's end. How was she supposed to find a newborn king when there wasn't even a palace?
Maybe we don't need to find a palace, boss.
But kings are born in palaces. Everybody knows that.
Nobody ever listened to a
listened
donkey.
Donkey.
Oh, Steve, this is too hard. If only we had a sign.
Fear not, for I bring you tidings of great joy.
Tonight in Bethlehem, a baby has been born.
God's special king.
Who will bring God's blessings to the world.
You will find the baby wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger.
Hurry, there's a baby who needs me.
Off they dashed to Bethlehem as fast as they could. There was no time to waste. They noticed the star in the sky more dazzling than ever, and saw that it had come to rest above a stable.
Well, I never, Steve.
Hot towels at the ready, boss.
It's all right, crisis averted. The midwife is here.
But there, already lying in the manger, was a newborn baby. What was a king doing in a stable? He was unlike any baby the midwife had ever laid eyes on. She knew at once this truly was a king who didn't need riches or pomp, and especially not a palace, to be the saviour of the world. She stopped, stared, and was silent. Then in a teeny tiny voice she said,
Am I too late?
Suddenly the midwife felt very shy and humble. She was not used to feeling this way at all.
Midwife, please come over.
There's someone who wants to meet you.
But the midwife was as timid as a mouse.
What shall I call him?
We'd like you to join with us and sing Away in a Manger.
What should I call him? It's funny, all evening I've been thinking he needs me, but the simple truth is that I need him. Baby Jesus, it's good to know you.
Wow, my cousin's here too.
Steve!
Nigel!
I tell you what, Steve, you would not believe the night I've had.
Shout,
recording. Say Merry Christmas!
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.